Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started today with today's meeting. For those attending in person and those attending virtually, welcome to the Southeast Arizona Citizens Forum public meeting held today in person at Cochise College in Douglas and via Teams webinar and conference call. My name, for those of you who do not know me, is Leslie Grijalva, and I'm a public affairs specialist with the IBWC, and I am based out of headquarters in El Paso, Texas. Before we get started with the meeting, I just wanted to go over a few items. If you have joined via Teams, you should be able to see the agenda that we have posted here. And you,
Leslie, I don't see it here popping up yet. I don't know if anybody else does.
Let's try that again. How about now?
I did it.
Alrighty. Okay. If you have called in via telephone, or if you cannot see what's being projected on Teams for some reason, then you can view the presentations and the agenda on our agency webpage. If you grab a pen, I will give you that link and the call-in number in just a minute. For those people participating virtually, we will be muting everybody except for the board members that are present, the presenters, and IBWC staff. If you signed up to speak during public comment, we'll announce your name when we get to that part of the agenda, and you'll be able to make your comment at that time. After you've connected to Teams, you'll see a little icon of a little circle with a chat or a comment symbol at the top. You can use that feature to ask any questions if you're attending virtually. There will be staff monitoring the chat for questions that are asked during the presentations, and we'll address them at the end. If Teams is just not working for you, you always have the option of calling in by phone and viewing the presentations on the webpage. The number is 872-240-1286. And then it'll prompt you for a meeting ID, and it is 2878-46-474 and the pound sign. The phone conference ID is 287-846-474 and the pound sign. To view the presentations on the webpage, you can go to the Southeast Arizona Citizens Forum page and look for the links for today's specific meeting. Today, our co-chair for the Citizens Forum meeting is Mr. Ben Lumley, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to him at this time so he can formally open the meeting.
Thank you and welcome everybody. I'm a veteran, so I'd like to start off with a Pledge of Allegiance, if you don't mind. We have a flag over here. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Our first thing on the agenda is a welcome and introductions. As I said, my name is Ben Lumley. I'm a retired hydrologist from Department of Interior. I'm also president of the Friends of the Santa Cruz River, and I serve on several boards, including PEER, which is a national organization. PEER stands for Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility, and we help whistleblowers, scientific and law enforcement type whistleblowers that are up against environmental injustices. Today, I'd like to get everybody to go around and introduce themselves, especially the new members. I do understand Supervisor Bracker will not be with us today, but I think everybody else on this list is here. So if we could go around for the board members first, and then any public in attendance, introduce yourselves and tell us who your affiliation is and what your area of interest is in IBWC issues. Where should we start? Brian, you're new.
Thank you, Ben. My name is Brian Vanderboot, and I'm a new member. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Vanderboot, and I'm a new member of the IBWC board, recently appointed. for which I am very appreciative. I'm a resident of Tubac, have been a resident of Santa Cruz County for 50 years. My profession, prior to my retirement, was in the produce industry in Nogales. I'm very, very interested in all water issues, international water issues that affect the region. And that was my interest in joining the board.
I'm John Gumbo. I was on the board last time. Grateful to be appointed again. I live in Tubac and chairperson of the Domestic Water Improvement District. And my interest is anything to do with the health of the river flows either way.
My name is Moe Garcia, and I'm a Rio Rico resident in working Nogales. I've been there since 1975. I am a Rotarian and I serve in several boards. And we have to be here. I look for the health and of our waterways and financial issues.
My name is Michael Gregory. I live about 15 miles from here and have for the past 55 years or so. My interest has been in water issues in general, environmental issues in general. I was the conservation chair for the Sierra Club in the state of Arizona for about 20 years. And for about another 20 years, I ran an organization called Arizona Toxics Information, which was very much involved with acute noise and various water issues, especially back during NAFTA days. We got involved with the water issues on the border. So I attended a lot of meetings with the BEC and the NAB Bank having to do with IBWC issues. So we have tracked things like, Dallas wastewater treatment plant, Tijuana wastewater treatment plant, and the Tijuana watershed estuary, and various other pollution as well as water supply issues. And most recently, I've been involved with the development of the state active management area here in this valley, in this particular basin, the Douglas Basin, where there has been a great deal of concern about the relationship between the aquifer here, between the two countries, because it is a binational transboundary aquifer. So a lot of people have been asking, how that affects the AMA up here and so on. So,
I'm David Miller with SEGO. I am Keith Dennis with Southeastern Arizona Governments Organization. We are the Council of Governments for the rural part of Arizona, Santa Cruz, Cochise, Graham, and Grady counties. Obviously, that's two of the state's 4 border counties. 3 of the most significant border crossings are in our region. My background is in planning and zoning, land use regulation, and been involved with nonprofits, development and collaborations over the last 15, 16 years since living in Bisbee. I've served on Bisbee boards and commissions, and I worked for SEGO for 6 years. I'm currently the Community and Economic Development Program Manager for SEGO. In January, I'm going to become the Executive Director. So my boss, Randy Heiss, who's going out, retiring, was invited to participate in the board, and he very graciously said, make this guy do it instead. So this is my first time attending one of these, and eager to learn and listen to what other people have to say.
Charles A. Beatty. I'm with the Napa Sanitary District. For the last couple decades, I've been working on our sole source transboundary aquifer, and we're trying to upgrade our wastewater treatment plant back to a regional concept to create a constructed wetlands with a park that deals with all 3 towns, Naco, Bisbee, and Naco Sonora, and hopefully do some sulfate mitigation with our constructed wetlands. So we've got a regionalization concept that we're working on.
well,
Yeah, I'm Steve Day. I'm actually chairman of the board of the Naco Sanitary District. And basically, he put it, he put that in the nutshell for me, so I made a paper for that and that.
Good afternoon, my name is Henry Rivera. I'm the wastewater department, I'm director of engineering. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I'm here to share my background is engineering, so anything having to do with wastewater treatment is of interest. We're here to share and collaborate with any way we can.
Well, thank you, everybody. And if I'm not wrong, I think Hyman's been on the board at least one other term, maybe two other terms. Thank you, Hyman. Leslie, Fisher is next.
What do we want? Joint virtual. You can ask. I can hear you. Do we have any board members joining us virtually?
Yes.
Can we get you to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Yeah, I can start. I'm Mark Taylor, from Tucson, Arizona. I work for Westland Resources. I've been on the forum for 2 terms now, I guess about 5 years total. I'm also on the CAP board, board of directors for CAP, and so I do most of my work is with water and wastewater on both sides of the border. So I'm obviously very interested in it from an infrastructure standpoint on both sides for what needs to be done. So it's nice to be back and good to see everybody again.
Thank you. Who's next?
Microphones, so they can hear.
Oh, okay. So who's next? Alejandro, you want to go next?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Ben. My name is Alejandro Bárcenas. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Nogales. And I guess I was a member of the board until the last round, and now I'm just participating here and very interested in what happened on the border and water and wastewater issues. I have a lot of interest in what happened with the water and wastewater because my role in the city. So I'm here to learn and participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandro. Who wants to go next?
Can't understand the word they're saying out here.
Yeah, the microphone's not picking that up.
We'll try.
Who do we have next? Jonathan? Jonathan, you want to go next?
Hi, yeah, I'm Jonathan Paul, Surface Water Inspector with the state of Arizona.
Hello, my name is Robert Ackler, and I am a surface water inspector with the state of Arizona as well.
I'm Shannon Donati. I'm also a surface water inspector with ADEQ.
Frank?
I'm Lydia Smart, and I am also a surface water inspector with ADEQ.
Who else do we have listed?
I'm Stephanie Huang. I'm an engineer with the state of Arizona.
Anybody else that wishes to introduce themselves? So we can start with it.
Okay, so we're I'm moving on with the agenda. We're looking for the opening remarks from Mr. Frank Fisher. He's the Chief of Public Affairs, USIBWC. Mr. Fisher, who has been welcoming remarks for the new board members and for start of the meeting.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to the Southeast Arizona Citizens Forum. And thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to be with us. I'd like to thank the new members of the board who agreed to serve, as well as those who elected to stay on for another term. You are important to the IBWC and our mission of protecting communities on both sides of the US-Mexico border.
Thank you, Leslie and Esther, for organizing this meeting and working with our contractor, Rational 360, to make this a successful event. Thank you, Cochise College, for letting us use your wonderful location. I also appreciate Leslie and John for agreeing to present this afternoon. I'd like to let everybody know that we are recording this meeting so that we can use it as our minutes. It will be posted on the IBWC YouTube channel, and I can send that link. We'll post that link out to everybody. I hope everyone attending this meeting in person and online will share their ideas and opinions with us, because that's what makes us strong. I'll now turn it back to Leslie. Thank you.
Well, our next presenter will be Leslie. She is with IBWC Citizens Forum Program Overview and History will be the title of her presentation. Leslie is a specialist with a public affairs specialist with IBWC, and after her presentation, we'll facilitate questions until no later than 5:05 p.m. Questions on chat will be monitored throughout the meeting, or you can do that as well. Leslie?
So in light of the fact that we were going to seat a new board today, and we have board members that are new to what is the Citizens Forum and who the IBWC is, we decided to be a little conscientious towards those members and kind of give everybody a refresher of who we are, what it is that we do, and what the points of the Citizens Forums are. So that's what I'll be doing today. I have two short presentations for you, and then I'll hand it over to John. So for those that are relatively new to the IBWC and its mission, we are the federal agency that's responsible for applying the boundary and the water treaties between the United States and Mexico. So that's California to the Gulf of Mexico. And we use those treaties to settle any differences that might come up in their application. That is the mission of the agency. We have been around for a while. The early history of the IBWC started with the convention of November 12, 1884. That was the convention that adopted rules about the location of the boundary when the rivers changed course. Oops, sorry. The next treaty was the Convention of March 1st, 1889. That is what officially established the International Boundary Commission. So at that time, there was no water in the name. It was just Boundary Commission. Its main focus at that time was maintaining the international boundary. And
Leslie, I'm sorry, Leslie, we're not seeing your presentation. If you're showing a presentation, I'm not seeing it.
All right. One second, sorry about that. Is it up now, Frank?
Yes, I'm seeing it now.
Okay. So on the slide, there is a picture of one of our boundary markers. So in the state of Texas, of course, the international boundary is the Rio Grande River. But on the western boundary, so the states of New Mexico, Arizona, and California, we don't have a water boundary, we have a land boundary. So what we have are boundary markers. So they look like this one, and they go from the New Mexico-Texas state line all the way to the end of the boundary in California. So these are what we use on the land boundary. We have surveyors that go out for both sections actually, and they use these. They use the surveying tools to make sure that the boundary is always properly set. They are line of sight, so you can actually see the peak of each boundary marker from one to the next, all the way down the boundary. That's how they're set up. So this is boundary marker number 123. The Convention of 1906 is the treaty that focused on the distribution between Mexico and the U.S. of the waters of the Rio Grande in El Paso and Ciudad Juarez. The US is to deliver 60,000 acre feet per year. And we proportionally reduce deliveries in case of extraordinary drought. So for much of the Southwest, that's what we're looking at right now is extraordinary drought. The water that is received both at American Dam and International Dam, that's stored in Elephant Butte Dam in New Mexico. And the water that is for US use is diverted at our American Dam field office in El Paso. And for Mexico, it's diverted at International Dam, which is pictured there, which is about maybe a mile or so downstream of American Dam in El Paso, Texas. The Convention of 1933 stabilized the boundary in the El Paso Ciudad Juarez Valley. That's what straightened the river channel. It established the need for flood control levees in both countries, and it was the beginning of what's known as the Rio Grande Rectification Project. So, you know, a river it's a natural thing. Of course, rivers meander. So for many, many years that caused a lot of disputes between the two countries. So this was one of the ways that we rectified that. We have a historical picture there where you can see there the original old channel, how it went kind of all over the place. And then the rectified channel you'll see it's much straighter and much easier to follow. So that was when the river channel was straightened. So the 1944 Water Treaty, that's probably one of the bigger treaties, and a lot of people are familiar with this one. But this is what establishes the distribution of waters in the two countries for the Rio Grande from below Fort Quitman to the Gulf of Mexico. So Fort Quitman is about maybe about 60 miles outside of El Paso. So from that point on to the Gulf of Mexico, the waters are distributed according to the terms in this treaty. The United States receives 1/3 of the waters that that flow into the Rio Grande from 6 Mexican tributaries. The minimum annual average of 350,000 acre feet per year is delivered in cycles of 5 years. So we work by 5-year water cycles. This treaty also was the one that authorized the construction of up to 3 storage dams on the Rio Grande, but only 2 have been built to date. One is Amistad Dam and the other one is Falcon Dam. That's just a picture of the Rio Grande up near Fort Fabens in a little bit downstream of El Paso also. This also applies to the Colorado River. In the case of the Colorado River, the United States is to deliver to Mexico a volume of 1.5 million acre feet per year. When there are surplus waters, that total volume can go up to 1.7 million acre feet per year. In the event of extraordinary drought, Mexico is reduced in proportion to US. So that's a very important thing to note there. This is the Colorado River at one of the sites in Yuma. I was actually in Yuma yesterday, so I got to see that site. The other thing that many people are familiar with is the Chamizal Convention of 1963. So if you have never been to El Paso, you've never seen the picture that's on that slide. But essentially, for a good stretch of the river through the middle of downtown El Paso, that's what the Rio Grande looks like. It's a channelized stretch of river. So the Chamizal Convention relocated the Rio Grande into that concrete line channel through central El Paso and Ciudad Juarez. And it resolved, a centuries-long boundary dispute between the two countries as a result of that river meandering to and from and gain and loss of territory. So that was concrete lined, and there's a national park on the other side and the US section that is also focused on that. But this is what it looks like in El Paso for a good little stretch. It's a concrete line channel. The 1970 Boundary Treaty was established to maintain the Rio Grande and Colorado rivers as the international boundary. That is what dictates that the two rivers are what's going to be the boundary between the United States and Mexico. So I wanted to just highlight the second bullet because we get asked a lot, what exactly is the international boundary? Where is the boundary? Is it the middle of the river? Is it the middle of the channel? So it's actually defined as the middle of the channel occupied by normal flow, or the middle of the channel, which in normal flows has the greatest average width over length. So it's a little formula. This treaty also established that the IBWC was to delineate the boundary on maps. We were, according to this, able to stabilize or rectify the channel if it was needed, and numerous rectifications have been carried out. And it also prohibited the construction of anything that would obstruct or deflect normal or flood flows in the floodplains along the river. So the IBWC's structure, because it's an agency that was established by treaty, the structure of it is significantly different than other federal agencies. We do have two sections. There's a US section and a Mexican section. Both sections have a commissioner. Both commissioners are appointed by their respective president. Aside from the commissioners, the second treaty position is what we call a secretary or foreign affairs officer for the US section. We have two principal engineers, one that heads our engineering department and one that heads our operations and maintenance department. And the legal advisor is also a treaty position. So the chief counsel for each agency is also a treaty position. So treaties were established, but of course they were established, in some cases very long ago. And of course, times change and things happen and things have to evolve. And so the way that we have found useful in order to adopt some of these changes is in the form of minutes. So minutes are decisions of the commission. They're binding agreements of the IBWC that are meant to implement some sort of treaty. So every minute that we have is associated with a particular treaty that we have, and it's, you could think of it as an addendum or an amendment. They take effect once they're approved by the U.S. Department of State on the U.S. side and